I am Jagan and this is our third science video from Jagan's channel. So I'm going to give you an introduction about the kidneys. This fellow pointer right here. So the kidneys are part of the urinary system or the excretory system. Excrete means to push out, They usually say the word excrete when they mean push out waste. So that's why this system right here is called the excretory system. See, the kidney right here is a basic organ that filters blood and filters out waste products. So the blood from the aorta goes into the kidney, and then the kidneys filter the blood with their nephrons. Then the blood that has been filtered goes back up to the inferior vena cava to the heart and via the circulatory system. But the product that has been filtered out of the blood, which is called urine, goes to the renal pelvis, which is over here, and then down the ureter to the bladder. Then the bladder excretes the urine. So, I'm going to talk about the layers of the kidney. There are two layers. The renal capsule and the renal cortex. The renal cortex has these pyramids called medulla. The renal medulla. So, I'm going to be discussing about the kidney. Now, I'm going to be explaining my first drawing of the kidney. Come on, little pointer. So, this is the adrenal gland and this is the kidney. The kidney, you remember when I said in the introduction that the kidney filters blood, basically. The blood comes from the aorta. Then it goes to the renal arteries and into the kidney. The kidney has tiny little tubes called nephrons that filter the blood. Then when the blood is filtered, it goes back from the kidney to the renal vein and to the inferior vena cava and up onwards, where it is fast and continuous. So now I'm going to talk about the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland. Now I may know you're like, what? Because we're talking about the urinary system, and this gland has to do with the endocrine system. But let's just talk about it for a while. So the adrenal gland, right here, sitting on top of the kidney, is a gland of the endocrine system. It produces a hormone called adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone that, say, a fear of yours is, say if you're scared of a lizard and it's standing right in front of you. You're like, ah! So that adrenaline hormone is controlling your body when you have a fear like this. So adrenaline travels into the lungs, airways, and makes the airways bigger so you can expand more oxygen. I want to get out of it. So flight or fight. It has to do with the adrenal gland, because flight, if the adrenaline controls something you don't want to do something to, then you just have to take the flight way, run away, or do something else that you can avoid for the lizard. Or fight. If the adrenal gland produces the hormone and you're like, and then you calm down for a little, and then you say, I can do it, I can make my fear go away. Then that's called fight. So, fear has to do with adrenaline. So, now that I'm done explaining about the adrenal gland, let's go back to the kidney. So the kidney, let's review. So, the red blood, the blood from the aorta, the abdominal aorta, the blood from the aorta goes to the renal arteries and in the kidney. Tiny tubes called nephrons absorb the blood. Then the blood, when it's finished filtering, it goes through those tiny tubes again and goes through the renal veins to the inferior vena cava, which is a large blood vessel. There's a vein, and the blood goes back up to the heart. In the meanwhile, the substances that is already filtered from the blood goes down the ureter to the bladder. And when you go to the bathroom, it excretes. So that's what I want to tell you about the first drawing. So now I'm going to be explaining my second drawing of the kidney structure. So see that picture over there, the one I drew? So over there, right over there is the adrenal gland. Over there, the adrenal gland, you can see some suprarenal arteries. Suprarenal is another name for the adrenal. Suprarenal gland, adrenal gland. So we have the superior segmental. We have the superior one, and we have the inferior superior artery at the bottom of the adrenal. Now we can see the borders. The borders of the kidney, that is what gives the kidney its shape. You know, like this is a border. Say borders of the United States. So kidneys do the same thing. So this is the anterior view, front view. This is not the posterior view, back view. So, and we're not looking inside the kidney, we're looking outside the kidney. The external anterior view of the kidney. So the borders, remember, the borders give the kidney its shape. Say the kidney was shaped like this, like a circle. These would be its borders. What about the square? These would be its borders. Okay? And you can see the ureter over there. You can see the ureter, you know, the tube that leads down to the bladder and carries urine to the bladder. So that's how I want to tell you about my second drawing. 2 drawings left. Now I'm going to explain my third drawing, the renal cortex. So as you can see here, there. If you can get a closer view, look at this one. You can see there are 2 layers of the kidney, like I told you in the introduction. The renal capsule, which is on the outside, the layer that we looked on the kidney structure on the second picture, and the renal cortex, which we're looking at right now. You can see there are these pyramid-shaped sacs called medulla, the renal medulla. At the very edge, the inferior or superior border of the medulla, you can see the renal papillae. This right over here that leads to the ureter is called the renal pelvis. You know the pelvis. Sometimes people mix up the pelvis like a huge hip bone that's over here. Well, the renal pelvis is different. It's not like the end of the kidney. If I put it like this, it's not like it's a big skeleton. This is the renal pelvis. It's like the renal pelvis. The renal renal is the key word in this video. Renal belongs to kidney. So now, anyway, the medulla lead to the renal pelvis and then ureter. So over here, the renal pelvis, there are calyces, the minor calyces and the major calyces. The minor calyces, any way you can pronounce it, tomato, it does not matter. It does not matter which way you pronounce. It's still the same. Major calyces, minor calyces. So the medulla over here leads to the renal pelvis and then goes out of the ureter. That's all I want to tell you about the renal cortex. So now I'm going to explain the last drawing of the kidney, the renal arteries. So there are a lot of renal arteries because there's a renal artery, the renal artery, the right renal artery. The right renal artery comes from the aorta, the abdominal aorta, to be precise. So the renal artery has a lot of branches, including the anterior branch, posterior branch, which then lead to smaller branches. I'm going to explain the types of arteries located in the kidney. First, the interlobar arteries. Those are the long ones that lead to the arcuate arteries, which are U-shaped arteries that fill in the gaps of the medulla. Then, rising from the arcuate arteries, you have the interlobular arteries. Don't get confused with the interlobar and interlobular arteries, please. Okay, so the interlobular arteries are small arteries that rise from the arcuate arteries. So as I mentioned, there are several branches to the renal artery. The anterior branch, which then leads to the anterior superior and anterior inferior segmental arteries. Posterior branches, the posterior branch, which then leads to the posterior segmental arteries, which are posterior to your kidney. Posterior. I said that so many times. So, next we have the anterior inferior segmental artery, which gives birth to the arcuate arteries, one of the arcuate arteries. Every interlobar artery gives birth to an arcuate artery, which gives birth to an interlobular artery. So that's it for my last drawing of the kidney. Thank you for watching this video. I know that you like to gain knowledge. So please subscribe to Jagan's channel. I'll see you next time on one of my science videos again. Bye!